Well, yes, Kamali. EU leaders say they're willing to delay Brexit until May the 22nd if the UK Parliament votes for the Prime Minister Theresa May's withdrawal deal. If not, then a shorter extension is on the table. Shares in Deutsche Bank rose after it revealed its board members were given their first bonuses in 4 years. But the European indices have slipped back after worse than expected economic data out of Germany and France. Amongst the big losers was Nokia. The Finnish telecom company's shares lost almost 5% after saying it would reduce its exposure to Iran. Asian markets closed relatively flat. Chinese stocks recovered from earlier losses. That was after Tencent said its profits were growing at the slowest annual rate in 13 years. In Japan, the Nikkei was up despite a slight slowdown in inflation. It rose 0.7% from the same time last year, but it was well short of the Bank of Japan's 2% target. US stock futures are all in the green. Confirmation a US trade delegation will visit China next week was well received. Further trade figures will be released later on top of manufacturing data. Those will add to the picture of how the US economy is performing after the central bank warned on Wednesday that growth was slowing. Concerns over economic growth are also affecting oil prices. Both Brent crude and WTI are down. Analysts say a slower economy would likely mean a fall in fuel consumption. Well, for more on the markets now, Michael Hewson joins me from London. He is Chief Markets Analyst at CMC Markets. Thank you for joining us today, Michael. Let's talk first of all about Brexit. It's been a big week. What's the response been from business in the markets?
Well, I think businesses are relieved that we are going to get an extension beyond the 29th of March, but it really doesn't resolve the underlying problems of a potential no-deal Brexit, because that still remains the default position. But markets are relieved. The pound has rebounded on the back of the deal that was agreed at the European Council last night. And ultimately, I think what we're looking to see now next week is likely to be another week of Brexit votes. But first and foremost, whether or not we get another meaningful vote, I think it's unlikely that even if we do, that it will pass. Furthermore, MPs still have to pass a statutory instrument to actually defer the departure date from the 29th of March to the 12th of April, because I think it's more than likely that Theresa May's deal, if it gets voted on, will fail to get passed.
Right, well, we've also had some negative numbers on manufacturing in the Eurozone. How concerning are these?
These are very concerning. I mean, the German numbers in particular were particularly shocking, coming in at the lowest level since the middle of 2012. And I think they really increased concern that the European economy is going into recession. We already know that Italy is in recession. The German economy stagnated in the last half of 2018, and 2019 doesn't look any better. So in that context, I think an awful lot of investors are concerned that when we get the latest PMI numbers out at the beginning of next month, they are going to be similarly very, very bad.
OK, and then lastly, we've had some news from British retailer Debenhams today. What does it mean for shareholders?
I think it means that shareholders, if they are still holding shares, are likely to get wiped out. It's become apparent pretty much for the last 6 months that Debenhams is struggling to turn itself around. It has to make another £50 million rent payment later this month. And the fact of the matter is, sales have been in decline, online sales are anemic, and it's likely that at some point the company will have to file for a company voluntary agreement to restructure its debt.
OK, Michael Hewson from CMC Markets, thank you for joining us from London.
Thank you.
Now to other top stories from around the world. Indonesian airline Garuda is cancelling a multi-billion-dollar order for 49 Boeing 737 MAX 8 jets. The carrier says passengers have lost confidence in the aircraft after 2 recent fatal crashes. Boeing representatives will visit Jakarta on March the 28th to discuss the cancellation request with the airline. German manufacturing contracted at the quickest rate in more than 6.5 years in March. The industry's Purchasing Managers Index fell to 44.7 from 47.6 in February, remaining below the 50 mark that separates expansion from contraction for a third straight month. Economists had forecast a reading of 48. And And Tesla has accused a former employee of stealing data from the company before joining a Chinese self-driving car startup in January. The engineer, Guangji Cao, allegedly copied 300,000 files related to the source code for its autopilot technology. And you can tune in to Money Talks at 17:30 GMT for more analysis of the latest Brexit developments and other business and economic news happening today. That's all from business for now, but Robyn Adams is standing by with the latest in sport. Robyn, a big night of football and more to come.